I'm here to support my mom and the cause that we're fighting for.
And what does ICE mean to you?
ICE is something that I've grown to be afraid of because both of my parents are undocumented, but unafraid. And it is something that I would rather not have in my life. The stress and extra anxiety isn't good for me, and I don't like thinking about when or if I will see my mom the next day.
And you have friends. Are people afraid? Are they being terrorized by what ICE is doing today in the United States?
People are afraid. That's for sure. People are afraid, but there are people who are here to resist and here to fight back, and that's what we're here for.
So on May Day, what does May Day mean to you?
Just a day to resist, to fight back, to gain our power.
Estoy aquí en resistencia, en resistencia a todas las injusticias que están pasando en este momento, a todo el racismo, a este sistema que está dañando nuestras comunidades. Me afecta en una manera y nos afecta a toda una comunidad en una manera muy negativa, estar aislados bajo las sombras, en tener ese miedo, pero estamos aquí diciendo no vamos a dejar que el miedo venza, vamos a estar aquí en la lucha, en resistencia, juntos como comunidad y lo venceremos.
My name is Dalia Yedidia. We're out here today standing in solidarity with all immigrant communities and workers. We're here on International Workers' Day to demand rights for all workers, immigrants, and immigrant workers. We're a coalition, multiracial, Black, Asian Pacific Islander, Latinx, queer workers, and we're here to demand a stop to the Trump administration's racist and anti-immigrant policies and to demand sanctuary for all immigrants.
And what is it like for an immigrant today in the United States, undocumented immigrant?
Yeah, we know that there's always been a culture of fear, but with this new administration, there's only been an escalation in the unjust deportations, and we know that migrants come here often as a result of forced migration because of United States policies. And so we are here to demand an end to the Trump administration's racist policies and say no to a wall that will only further militarize a very, very militarized border and will cause more deaths for immigrants.
And you're putting your bodies on the line today?
Yeah, we're putting our bodies on the line today in solidarity with immigrant communities, really following the leadership of immigrants who are showing their courage and their strength today on International Workers' Day.
Last time she was here, the last time the judge heard her court case, she was severely I'm sorry, it's hard to tell. We were here over a week ago trying to have my sister released by ICE. And Judge Scott Simpson is probably here today hearing more court cases like that of my sister Yasmin. She is a survivor of domestic violence. She has survived death. And yet, she's still here surviving against the ICE machine. It would be great if all of you as a community could come and join my sister in the fight because she's been detained for over a year. And her children need her home, we need her home. And I graduate in 2 weeks, and it would be nice if my family could be there with me, supporting me as the first person to graduate from college. No sé de ustedes, pero para mí este lugar es muy familiar. Mi hermana Yasmin Liliana Elías ha estado peleando contra ICE por el último año. Y hace una semana, más de una semana, estábamos aquí peleando para que la dejaran ir. Pero no la han dejado ir y hemos estado peleando por mucho tiempo. Nos gustaría que la comunidad peleara más fuerte por Yasmin porque francamente es muy doloroso tener que venir aquí cada 3 o 4 meses para que le den dignidad a mi hermana. Y nos gustaría si la comunidad nos pudiera acompañar en las semanas que vienen para que Yasmin pueda asistir a mi graduación, ya que yo voy a ser la primera en mi familia que se gradúa del colegio. Gracias a todos.
My name is Lisa Gutierrez Guzman from United Educators of San Francisco, and our union is here to support this struggle. Not everyone could come because some people felt obligated to work, but I feel that I should come. My father's an immigrant from the Philippines. My husband's an immigrant from Mexico. I'm from here, but I really feel that the fight for immigrant rights is a fight for all of us. And I've been marching on May Day, International Workers' Day, for years, and I will not stop until all workers have the power that they need to have a better society.
And you think Trump is resurrecting May Day for more and more people in this country?
Well, people are reacting to Trump, of course, they are. And that should be a reason to fight back because he's a symbol of fascism in our society. But even if it wasn't Trump, in my opinion, under Obama, 3 million people were deported. So, but of course we know Trump wants to deport something like 11 or 12 million. But, it's a fight that we should have together to stop this because this country was formed by immigrants, and we as workers here in the United States need to unite with all working people.
And how is this affecting children in the schools?
Children are scared. They're scared that they might get deported, and they're scared that mainly that their parents will get deported. So we talk about safe and supportive schools in our fights in United Educators, and how could that be a stable, safe community if you think any minute now when you go home, your parents might not be there, or your uncles or your aunts or whatever, The kids can't learn because they're nervous about what's going to happen. And during testing, which we've been having, it's even worse because they can't produce what they're supposed to produce.
Sorry, why am I here? I'm one of the teachers who work with supporting the immigrant rights.
How have schools been affected by these?
Oh, families are fearful to go to school. The kids are all worried about what's going to happen to them. Yeah. It's horrible. Yeah. Well, I live in a family of immigrants, and they're all worried about what's happening with it. They're worried about where it's progressing.
What's your union business?
Some of us, yeah, and we're going to be involved a little bit more later. Like 6 or 7 schools are fully organized to come down.
What schools?
Buena Vista, Horace Mann, Flynn, Webster, Hillcrest, others I can't remember right now. Let's talk to them.
What school do you have?
I'm in the central office, in the teacher in the mathematics department.
And what union?
The UESF, same union, teacher union.
My name is Joyce Nakamura. Repeat the question.
Well, you're here in front of ICE, and a lot of people in this country, immigrant people, are now afraid. What are your concerns about what's going on in this country, ICE and May Day, and why you're here today?
Well, I think as my sign says, there's been a history of exclusion, including, what's personally affected me. My parents, my grandparents, my sister, my brother were put in concentration camps during World War II. And I think the same thing is happening today in terms of targeting a group of people based on religion, race, what country they came from. So I feel it's important to stand up because no one stood up for us in 1942, and we're all put in these camps. My parents were put in Poston, Arizona camp, and
How long were your parents there in the camp?
3 years. 3 years in the camps.
How did that affect your family?
It affected the family unit. My brother and my sister were born in the camps, but they couldn't stay together as a family unit because of the structure of the camps. When they left the camps, they had nothing. They had to start all over again. They were afraid to come back to California. They didn't come back to California until, some of my relatives said, "Oh, seems like a safe place to go to." But they had no home. My parents lived in a renovated chicken coop when they got out of the camp. They had nothing. My mother was pregnant with my brother at that time. And so, it affected my parents economically and also psychologically. It's something they never talked about. I never knew what the camps were until the uprisings during the 1960s, when a lot of students of color were demanding to know about their history, that kind of thing. So It was something that was never talked about. They were ashamed of what happened.
Are you surprised and shocked about the Trump administration talking about internment as a necessary thing possibly today, 70 years after the Internment Act in the United States that jailed or imprisoned Japanese Americans?
No, I'm not surprised because the laws, the mechanisms to do this exist. Japanese Americans were seen as a threat to this country, even though they're American citizens. And that is something that the government can do. Of course, there's due process, those kinds of issues that go along with it. But the fact that in an emergency situation, if a group of people is targeted as the enemy, that's something the government can do. And that's something that the president can do. That's what Franklin D. Roosevelt did, a Democrat. It was an executive order that put Japanese Americans into these camps. It was a law.
You don't want this to happen again. You're here at ICE to say you don't.
Of course. I feel like as a Japanese American, I have a moral obligation to stand up. This is something horrific that happened to a group of people. There's elements of that now. It could get worse. And we don't want it to get worse, and that's why I'm here today.
Did you make this sign?
I did.
What's your name?
My name is Barbara.
And what is the sign? What are you trying to say in your sign?
Well, my sign is, it's because of Trump's proclamations, the criminal division of Immigration Services, Homeland Security, now has to arrest everybody who's in the vicinity who is an illegal immigrant. Whereas before that was not the case. They would look the other way because they wanted the help of local law enforcement. And local law enforcement wants to help with illegal activities, but we're a sanctuary city and they don't want to be involved in just residual collateral.
And what do you think should happen to ICE here in San Francisco on May Day?
Well, I hiss at the buses every time I see them on my way to the bridge. It's a fact of life. I mean, there is processing for immigrants in the United States. I think there needs to be a better way for people who come here illegally to get legalized, and I think that whole system needs to be updated.
Do you think there's racist scapegoating going on in this country?
Do I think there's what?
Racist scapegoating. I mean, scapegoating of immigrants, of Latinos, and
oh, absolutely.
And talk about what you've seen that you think makes you have that opinion.
Well, I definitely have friends who are black who who have nice cars, who routinely get stopped by the police and pulled over. My boyfriend's Japanese American, and I see when we're out in restaurants racial profiling going on. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's third generation.
So it seems like it's permeating the society, growing racism.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think Trump has allowed a pervasive now for hate groups to let down their covers and just go for it.
What's your name?
Pablo.
And how old are you, Pablo?
I'm 9.
Why are you here today, Pablo?
Because to help the immigrants from getting deported from ICE and Donald Trump, and also for May Day.
I care about the 180,000 American school children whose parents are threatened by people who work in this building.
How are they threatened? What are they doing?
Well, while 80% of them themselves are citizens, they have parents who are undocumented, so they're living in fear of their parents being deported and their families being torn apart.
How does that affect the classroom and kids in the classes?
It will just living with that stress is probably, I don't really know, but I can imagine it must be terrible.
How old are you?
I'm 14.
Flagpole stuff.
So why don't hi, how are you doing? So why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Brian Helmley. I'm with the Inland Boatmen's Union, which is part of the International Longshore Warehouse Union.
And you're here at the ICE office here in San Francisco on May Day. What's happening here today?
So people from the community and labor organizations have come together to shut down ICE because the federal government has been increasing its targeting and violent rhetoric towards immigrants. While the immigrations have been continuing under Obama, this is a continuation and an expansion and a real nasty, virulent, kind of xenophobic hatred towards immigrants that's really racist and disturbing. As somebody who works in public transportation, I want to make sure that people who are on the ferry boats that I work on as a deckhand are not being targeted by federal agents. I want to make sure that people understand that they are safe on public conveyances, and that workers on those conveyances have a right to try to protect themselves and the passengers from attacks from racist vigilantes and the general state of just white supremacists.
And there's a rise of racism, immigrant bashing. Is that conscious on the part of the government?
Well, I think that's the wave that Trump rode in on of white discontentment, which is misaimed. I mean, instead of blaming the bosses who have taken the jobs overseas to save money on labor, they blame people here in the United States will typically blame immigrants. And this has been going on in waves for the last 150, 200 years. The Chinese Exclusion Act, the Operation Wetback and whatnot in the earlier part of the 20th century, which brought people in to work very hard, and many died, and then were sent right back without any respect for their labor, and their families have suffered. And what's happening now, I think that's most disturbing, is my coworkers and friends have family who are being targeted, and the kids. There's one who has a 12-year-old who's asking all the time, "Hey, are you okay? Are you safe? Can you go to work? Are you going to come home today?" And this is a great person. Like, I can personally, speak about many people who I really respect and love who are here, but their kids specifically and themselves are also facing these fears and these threats all the time, and it's bad for the mental health of these people.
And it's kind of terrorizing people. Is
Absolutely.
that so? Who are the terrorists?
I mean, the people who would scapegoat immigrants and use the sort of pre-existing white entitlement to white people have a right to have jobs and things, and other people just need to get out of the way, and there's this sense that if you can just get rid of people or target them and terrorize them with ICE, that you'll have better jobs and better wages. But that is not the case. I mean, there will be automation of jobs. The jobs will continue to be outsourced to all over the world through automation and telecommunication technology, to the point where there's really, the labor standards in the U.S. are going to go down unless there's a fight from the working class to demand that there's dignity and respect. And that includes immigrants who do tremendously difficult work and are scared all the time with ICE, which is just being brought down on them to scare them more, to appease this unease of white people who are suffering, no doubt. But the entire working class is suffering, and that's the point. And until everybody is aware of what's being done and where the money is going and where the profits are being taken, I don't think that there's any way to really aim at our real enemy, which is the ruling class. And they're taking our money and taking our neighbors away in the night. I mean, that's really disgusting.
And so what is the solution for the working class? I mean, there's general strikes around the world. Workers around the world are facing devastation, deregulation, privatization. There was a general strike in Brazil.
Yes.
That shut down the whole country. Do you see that as a solution, those kinds of actions, and workers really taking over the society?
So there's a long way to go between here and there. I think the discontent and frustration that people feel day to day, if it's recognized that those are shared pains and struggles, then people can build organizations towards doing that work to resist and demand improvements. And as those are thwarted by the government, the corporations that are benefiting, then people will gradually build larger and larger movements, and those organizations can cooperate better once people experience the sense of shared outrage about shared struggles. Until then, it's really difficult. People are used to trying to find the hustle that's going to get them the job that gets them their first million, rather than realizing that they're renters or homeless and they're struggling to get jobs and hold on to jobs. And the mythos of, oh yeah, everybody can make it, everybody could be a millionaire, that's just not true. And as long as people hold on to that and wish for that and don't organize and try to help each other out, we're isolated and defeated. And so I feel like in order to get to those stages of mass struggle out where there's general strikes to paralyze a whole country or industry or a country, there's a lot of work between now and then, a lot of recognition of shared struggles and issues across race and gender and sexuality and nation. And as that starts to really happen, then I think we'll start to see that here.
I'm Joshua Jandrika. I work with ILWU Local 16. I basically take every opportunity I can to show solidarity with people who are vulnerable, more vulnerable than me, or just vulnerable in general. And the American worker is sadly is the definition of vulnerability in this era.
Trump, do you think he's agitating, bringing more people out as a result of his policies today in the United States?
I do think that he's that the extremism of this administration is bringing more people out. Sadly, I think the inaction of the Democrats, which are captive to big money, are creating the problem as well.
Well, we shut down the port today, and Larry writes, it's a workers', I don't know if you call it a holiday. It's a day that labor stands up for itself and supports other people who are struggling. And so it's a very important day around the world, not just, in fact, more so in a lot of European countries than in the United States.
And Trump, the new president, do you think he's having an effect on what's happening here today?
You think he's what?
Having an effect. Trump, the rise of Trump and racism?
Well, I'm sure that brings out more people because it's so bad, everything he's doing. It's really anti-people, anti-labor, anti-environment. It's very, very scary and dangerous. What's going to happen to this planet is really up in the air. I think human beings are jeopardizing their own continued existence with what's being done with the pulling more fossil fuels out of the ground and continuing to degrade the environment.
And the oil companies, they seem to be in charge in Washington.
Well, they are. They're in charge.
You got Secretary of State.
Rex Tillerson, yeah. So, yeah, it's really terrible. We really need to build a strong resistance and a strong movement to change things. I think as long as there's capitalism, though, this drive for profits outweighs anything else, and that we need to get rid of this economic system and have a socialist, a more fair economic system that puts people and the environment first and not profits for the billionaires.
Yeah, good morning. This is Ed Ferris, president of Local 10. We're celebrating International Workers' Day, about to start our march to Justin Herman Plaza. We're going to talk about immigrants' rights, human rights, collective bargaining rights, and it's a wonderful day in San Francisco.
And President Trump says that he is fighting for working people, for jobs. What's your response to that?
I think his actions are totally antithetical to that statement. He absolutely has nothing to do as far as moving workers' rights forward. Just look at the lack of appointment for Secretary of Labor. He's talking about getting rid of OSHA. He's talking about getting rid of the EPA. It's a mess.
May Day means to me celebrating the 8-hour workday that we accomplished.
What does May Day mean to you?
It means a lot. It means the 8-hour workday. It means all good things for our union, hard workers across the world. That's what May Day means to me.
What union are you in?
Local 10, ILWU.
What does ILWU mean to you?
It means a whole lot. It means me being able to support and take care of my family. It means a lot to me.
It's an International Working Day, off day, May Day, and it's Local 10.
What are the issues you face as a worker today in this country?
It's, like the healthcare, and, we need healthcare, and we need more work. We didn't need no war.
Brothers and sisters, this past weekend marks the 25th anniversary of the Los Angeles uprising that happened in the wake of the Rodney King verdict. Not a has changed since then. And the question that we should be asking is how and why. Brothers and sisters, the model for the modern day police department is one that was born out of the enslavement and the oppression of black people in America. During the times of slavery, the slave master would band together men to capture the runaway slaves, to keep the Negro population in check, and to defend the status quo. And individuals performing this function throughout the South became the police. And today it matters not that there are now black chiefs, black captains, black lieutenants, black sergeants, black patrolmen, because the institution of policing, brothers and sisters, was founded upon the idea and concept of white supremacy and upon the notion that a black man is always guilty of something, even when no crime has been committed. And so this is what the black community is confronted with day in and day out. And so our hope is that as a union, is that we will be able to utilize our influence, our ability to organize people, and the strength of our unity to force a paradigm shift, brothers and sisters, as it relates to the police interaction with our community. And so on this day, May Day 2017, let us be resolved that an injury to one is truly an injury to all. An injury to the poor and the oppressed is an injury to all. And what that means is that every man, woman, and child, regardless of race, creed, or class, in this room should stand with us whenever we're being ill-treated. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank all of you present in the name of the Puerto Rican people for the support, all the trade unions and one of the, last conventions of the FLCIO approving a resolution supporting the freedom of political prisoner Oscar Lopez Rivera. So we definitely support, thank all the support from people around the world that, make us get that brother free. And I must announce that he's coming to the Bay Area on May 31st. He will be speaking at the Presbyterian Church in Berkeley, so keep tuned for that. I just want to start by saying, as most of you know, Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States, and through the last, almost a century and the beginning of this and up to today, we have been victims of some sorts of exploitations by the American government and corporations. And the latest now is that the U.S., because they created this massive billionaires debt of $70 billion debt to the people, imposed on the people of Puerto Rico, now they want to make so many cuts and austerity measures on the Puerto Rican workers that people over there are fed up, are saying no more. And I must say, brothers and sisters, that on April the 5th, the students of the public university system did launch, and it still goes on, a student general strike. And definitely those students and young people and faculty and teachers need you, brothers and sisters, support right here in the belly of the beast. And I want to give you more, combative news. As we speak right now, right there in San Juan, is going a general strike. As the news and reports that I have received from the labor movement in general, from comrades and sisters and relatives that are today on strike, all roads leading to the city of San Juan have been shut down. All the services, water resources, electricity, the workers of these, of the public workers, teachers, even private workers, as in Pepsi-Cola, in Coca-Cola Corporation. These unions have shut down the economy in the island. So today, as we speak, right now people are gathering at different points in the capital, and there will be marching all the way up to the capital and the headquarters of government, which are right there in San Juan. I want to say this: so cruel and unusual, the United States imposed austerity measures in Puerto Rico, exploiting the Puerto Rican people, that they created this so-called fiscal control board, created by the cynically called law PROMESA, which means Puerto Rican Oversight Management Act, signed into law by President Obama. And with that law and that board, they're trying to, cut services to supposedly pay this debt that the Puerto Rican workers did not obtain. Right now, the U.S. government did impose a notorious person called Natalie Resco, which was the financial minister of the Republic of Ukraine. This person is an Ukrainian American that was helping privatize his services in Ukraine, and now she has been posted in Puerto Rico to lead this notorious fiscal control board. So that's what Puerto Rican workers are shutting down the country. The students are in general strike. The struggle continues.
Feliz Primero de Mayo! I am so honored to be here today with you, representing United Educators of San Francisco. As Frank said, we are paras, we are teachers, we are librarians, we are security guards. We are there to keep your children safe. We are there to teach them the truth about the government, which is trying to... Children, our students, your students deserve to go to school without wondering whether their mom or dad or brother or sister might not be there when they got home because of ICE. Educators from coast to coast in every city of this country are participating in May 1st protests. Some are organizing at their school sites. Many are out in the streets like you, having found a reason to feel so fired up that they're sick and they couldn't go to work today. Right now, while DeVos is trying to privatize our schools through a massive expansion of vouchers. Yeah, let's hear that. DeVos, boo! At a time of privatization and looming cutbacks, UESF is currently fighting for a fair contract for all of our members, which also means resources for important programs at our schools for your students, under the banner of stable, safe, and supportive schools. But how can our students feel safe if their family members live in fear of deportation? If ICE or other law enforcement agencies are allowed on our campuses, can schools be safe? If we as educators allow racial slurs or bullying to occur at our schools, can we call our schools supportive? We are here to make sure that those things do not happen. We are here to make sure that the resistance continues. I'm going to say, we are here to fight with you and for you. Education, not deportation. Education, not deportation. Education, not deportation. Education, not deportation. Okay, I have one little announcement. Next Tuesday, keep on your marching boots and go to 555 Franklin at 4:30. We will be rallying with families, with our labor partners to demand a contract and for the conditions that our students deserve. Let's see you there next Tuesday. Thank you.
Happy May Day. Happy International Workers' Day. Thank you. So proud to be here. So proud of my longshoremen brothers and sisters who took the day off to come here and march with you. Since when did the American dream only apply to white people? The American dream is built on immigrants' dreams. We better figure that shit out soon. We're here today to have a peaceful, positive message to that asshole in D.C. We're not satisfied with your program. We're not satisfied with your agenda of hate and division. So let's have a wonderful day. Peace.
Yeah, my name is Jack Heyman. I'm a retired member of the Longshore Union.
And what's going on here today?
Well, this is the beginning of establishing a tradition to honor May Day, which is International Workers' Day. It's something Local 10's been doing for the last several years. We started in '06 with the immigrant rights marches on May Day, and in through the last 10 years about police killings. We have a banner here today that says Stop Police Terror. We shut down the ports on May Day and marched for that. And then I think probably the biggest event that we've done on May Day was in 2008 when we shut down all the ports on the West Coast to demand an end to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The problem is it's not just Trump. This was going on under the Democratic administrations as well. I mean, we got very little publicity about the role that Obama played in key negotiations with the ILWU in the Northwest around the grainage agreements. For instance, he sent in a Coast Guard cutter, an armed Coast Guard cutter, to defend a scab ship in the port. And it was decisive in terms of intimidating the union officials to accept a substandard contract.
What should the unions do about it?
Are coming from both the Democrats and the Republicans. The solution is it's time to break with the Democrats. They never were friends of labor. We need to establish a workers' party based on the trade unions, but addressing the critical questions of the repression of immigrant workers, of blacks and brown people, of women's rights, and so forth. Now's the time for a workers' party, more than ever before.
I'm interviewing people, and I'm writing what they say.
And what are people saying?
They are here to support the immigrants, and some of them say, I support Immigrant Day.
And are people angry about President Trump?
Yes, some of them.
What do you think about May Day, this rally today?
I think we're making a change.
You think change is coming in this country?
Yes.
Adrian, that's one of the rights for the workers. We have the right to have a better pay every single time. For the city we live in is very expensive. So I think with the big action to do this, for the future we can get a better pay.
Where do you work?
I work in the Intercontinental Hotel Group.
And they make a lot of profit.
Yes, they do. They do. They make a lot of money. So.
But you want to be able to live in the Bay Area.
Yes.
pretty hard.
Yeah. So that's why we ask for more money, where we can have a better life.
My name is Antonio Arenas. I, for the past few years, have been fighting to be able to have a fair process to join and be a Local 2 member. I worked at the Hyatt Fisherman's Wharf for about 10 years, and me and my coworkers there were fighting to be part of Local 2. Unfortunately, just recently they laid me off, but we're going to keep fighting until we have a union there.
It's supposed to be illegal to discriminate against union members. You think there's discrimination, retaliation going on against women?
I believe so. They're trying to make some excuse that there's changes in the room service department. There's changes in the industry, but I think it was part of it was retaliation. It was no. It's such a coincidence that our whole department was very strong, union friendly and union strong. Yeah.
And workers in this country are being threatened with ICE. They're being threatened by the government. Do you think they need to stand up more and have general strikes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, workers should be standing up, not just general strikes, but also boycott. I mean, you got to hit them in the pocket, not just on one day, but on every day, like on consecutive. You know, the boycott right now, the boycott of the Hyatt Fisherman's Wharf and the Le Méridien hotels are two boycotts that we're going to continue, and it's a strategy that we should use not just with these two hotels, but with other businesses. Trump businesses should be targeted also for boycott.
And how long have you been a union member or a hotel worker?
I was working at the hotel, the Hyatt Fisherman's Wharf, for 10 years. Yeah.
How do you survive in San Francisco in the Bay Area?
Oh, it's hard. It's not hard. You got to stay close to your family. If your family buys a house, you stay close with them and work together. The family unit is kind of like the union. There's a family union and also the social union outside, labor unions.
Buena Vista?
Yeah, Buena Vista Horace Men.
Have you all come out today?
I think we have more people here than at our school right now.
And why are your teachers and the students coming out here today?
To defend immigrant rights, and because our kids deserve quality public education, and to not be afraid that when they come out of their schools, their family members have been deported. So kids, they learn better when they feel safe and they feel protected.
And are you a member of a union?
Yes, of course, yeah.
And are they supporting this?
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of union members out here, so we're representing, we have our shirts.
How you doing? Adam Wood, Local 798. I'm Tom O'Connor, President of the San Francisco Firefighters, and we're here to support workers internationally.
I work for United Educators in San Francisco, and I represent all the elementary schools.
What's happening in the elementary schools today on May Day in San Francisco?
They're coming out. They're trickling out, yeah.
Are they fed up with ICE and they?
Yes, well, kids are afraid of going to school. The parents are afraid to drop them off. It's horrible.
And how many members do you think you have out here today? Is your union supporting this?
We have a lot, yeah, definitely.
And your contract is coming up too?
Yes, we're in bargaining negotiations right now with the district, so we're trying to get the teachers a raise so they can afford to live in the city where they work.
My name is Charles Smith. I'm retired from Ask Me Local 444. I'm out here pushing for the general strike, because without a general strike, there will be no change in what's going on in America. The workers have power to change things, but they have to be activated, and it will not come from the union bureaucracy. They're in bed with the ruling class, and they're not going to do anything to change their position with the ruling class. certainly not declare a general strike. Want change? You want a general strike. It's got to come from the rank and file, and this is the time to do it. Things are only going to get worse for everybody, not just union members, what few union members are left today.
And they say it's illegal to have a general strike. The unions can't. Union leaders are afraid of it.
Say that.
They said it's illegal. The union leaders are saying it's illegal to have a general strike.
Yes, the union. Well, that's how doing illegal things was how unions were formed in the first place, and that now it's into a matter of they become bureaucracies at the top, and they're not interested in struggle anymore. They're interested in, as Donald Trump would say, the art of the deal. And when you do the art of the deal with the ruling class, you're going to get screwed, just like we got screwed with Trump.
Rights are under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! When women's rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! When women's rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back!
We're under attack. Yes.
What are
trying to defund, destabilize, say that it's not effective. When it's social policy that's not effective.
Do you think teachers are being scapegoated in this country?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you think about charters?
It depends.
Are they siphoning off money from public schools?
It depends. They can be, if they can be a public school.
Do you think you can have privately run boards running a public school?
No.
Are they public schools?
They can contribute to public school goals.
Sure, my name is John Avalos, and I'm here for May Day, International Workers' Day. We have hundreds of years of history of celebrating May Day, but this is one May Day, I believe, we're really bringing back the real spirit of what this is about, is celebrating the work of workers, defending our rights as workers, and today as well as defending our immigrant communities who are under attack with this awful Trump administration.
Well, in San Francisco, a lot of working people can't afford to live in the city anymore. In fact, in the Bay Area, there's a housing crisis. What's your view about how working people can solve that housing crisis?
Well, I've fought for years on trying to resolve that crisis and looking at it. We can get revenue to build more housing, to push higher inclusionary levels. Inclusionary housing is actually factoring in trickle-down economics. If we actually have a small percentage of housing that we build while we're building luxury housing, we're never going to catch up with luxury housing, so we need to have big funding streams. I worked on creating a public bank, and now it's being picked up by supervisors.
What would a public bank mean in San Francisco?
A public bank in San Francisco would mean that we actually have a pool of funds that we're bringing back every year in our budget and have a revenue stream for that can actually fund the creation of housing, creation of transit infrastructure, and support of small businesses in our communities that are the backbone of our city. And so it's looking at how we can create about $200 to $500 million a year funding stream to actually enable us to build our infrastructure, support working people, to level the playing field. Right now, all of our banks work to build the profit of our major corporations, the big developers. They don't think about our communities and all the people who build the city to make sure it can work. The public bank will help actually level the playing field to make that a possibility.
Now, Wells Fargo, which is based in San Francisco, has been involved in setting up 900,000 fake accounts. Their executives bullied, coerced employees to open illegal accounts, and also they say that nothing's happened to them. What do you think about Wells Fargo? Do you think it really should be allowed to operate as a private bank?
Absolutely not. No bank is too big to fail. Wells Fargo is one of the worst. It's not just what's happened recently with the fraud they committed and opening up fake accounts or bank accounts without the permission of consumers, but it's also the foreclosure crisis that we saw across the country. They were targeting Latino and African American communities to give them subprime loans and actually not allow them to actually modify their loans to be able to keep their wealth that they had in their hands. Bank of America is just as bad as Wells Fargo, as far as I'm concerned. And Wells Fargo, in San Francisco, we passed a resolution to divest from Wells Fargo.
Shouldn't they be taken over as a criminal syndicate? I mean, because they knew that they were setting up illegal accounts to profit legally.
Absolutely.
Shouldn't they be made a public bank?
Well, they can make it at a public bank. We have to go all the way up to the federal government to do that, and I don't have any faith that they're going to.
You think they should be prosecuted for coercing workers to open up fake accounts?
They absolutely should be prosecuted. We could do that here in California. Great. That's not the jurisdiction here in the city, but the state of California should definitely be looking into that. It's fraud. It's also, pushing and pressuring workers to, in very difficult jobs, to actually commit fraud. It wasn't necessarily the workers' fault. It was what was coming on high. And so there has been some level of accountability, but not nearly enough.
Now, May Day is celebrated all over the world by workers, and in San Francisco there was a general strike in 1934, the longshoremen. Today they've taken off work. Do you think there's going to be more of a movement of American workers for working class action, united working class action to fight these attacks by Trump and these other big corporations?
The only answer is not try to reinvest in our political system. We have to do that, but it's really about resistance. It's really about going in en masse, 10,000 people to the White House, getting in the doors and run this guy out of town on a rail. We have revolution that we have to put in place. Nothing's going to work short of that. They have complete control of every branch of government right now, and they've taken it illegally, fraudulently, and the only way to fight back is to actually go in and resist, block the entrances to the White House, block the entrances to Congress, shut the government down. That's the only way we're going to really get what we need to build a country that's going to work for all.
I am a security officer with the USWW. I'm here to support our immigrant communities and also our black workers' justice. Together we make our nation great. I'm here as a black woman and a black woman worker in this country, fighting for justice for all of us. Black worker justice, immigrant worker justice, everybody's worker justice. This is the International Day of Workers. You guys need to stand up, shut it down, however you do it, do it.